always centers me on ethics. And in the face of big box model counseling, that are coming at you all over the place, of standardized testing, of evidence for this. To me, the most important thing is that I have ethics about what I'm doing, and that I'm working for my clients, and that everything centers around them, and there's ethics just spin out from there, and they're always present when we meet together, and that comes back with me to my work. And if I get too far from that, sometimes the groups always bring me back to it, and allows me to bring it back to my clients.
Because I work so heavily in the medical model, and because my program is dictated by the Ministry of Health, one of the things that this group does for me is it allows me to constantly take a stand against the medical model, but also not get sucked into that medical model. And I've said that a few times. It sort of keeps it real for me, and it keeps me healthy, not being sucked back into those problematic ways, and always looking for sort of that strengths perspective, looking for alternate stories.
Being here and all the work we've done helps to remind me and to maintain a stance of curiosity and not knowing.
I really like the way it centers my work as well, and my focus with clients. I'm just thinking back to the last group that I came to and had a difficult case to present, and really took those ideas, and it was a wealth of ideas from different populations that you all work with, and so really appreciated all of that.
I think involvement in this group really keeps the work fresh. We're constantly talking about new concepts, talking to each other, sharing and listening to struggles people have and what they've done, and articles to read, and concepts and practice exercises. And so I think this really keeps the work alive, and it keeps us really focused on people's strengths and abilities and their knowledges.
One group meeting to the next sustains the practice itself, so that when you are meeting clients on a regular basis, it just keeps the ideas fresh, because otherwise it's so easy to lose the rhythm of the work, or to get caught up in more traditional ways of thinking.
And sometimes when you work in a particular organization, people become very like-minded because they're going through similar training, or there's similar protocols that you need to follow, and that can be a good thing, but it can also get you very stuck, I find. And so in a place like this, where we're bringing all of our own experiences from the different places where we work, it opens up so many new channels to view a situation or to help a client do something.
The groups for my clients have provided the opportunity to have reflectors available. Sometimes getting reflecting teams to do reflecting work for clients is really difficult. So the groups are always somewhere where I can go to get that feedback via tape or even live, bringing the client in. And that's a really rich thing for both clients and me, because I end up getting feedback and clients get feedback, so it's working really on two levels. So.
One of the funniest things that happens is every time I'm here and I go back to work, my supervisor says, "You've been at Collaborative again." And I'm like, "Well, yeah, you knew that." And she said, "No, it's your demeanor, it's the way you are thinking about things, it's different, you have more energy, you're more positive," and it's all those really neat things that I get out of this, and I guess it comes out shining, and I have even more energy, which can get lost sometimes doing really problem-centered work.
For example, I remembered several metaphors of, in one case it was, one of my colleagues sharing that she sees herself as a drop in a stream. And that image really influenced me, and who was brought up in a more competitive culture in my previous lives. There's so much less stress when you're part of a stream rather than having to be the one drop that's the best or whatever, being caught in this competitive spirit.
I just have the image of working from the heart, and this is a place where I feel that there's less fear in working from the heart and talking about that for some reason. And that then gives me courage to bring that into the work and into the room.
I think the way that I learn best is by making mistakes. And this group, I think, comes back to what Maureen was saying, just around you're looking at things from the heart. And I feel so comfortable in this group setting to make the worst mistakes possible without harming anybody.
For those of us that are no longer in school, it's a way of accessing resources, which is wonderful, because it's quite a challenge when you're not in school to get some of the articles and etc. So just to able to access that is really, really good.
I think one of the most powerful things that came out of the group was when we took on the initiative to do some community development centered around ethics. And we spent a lot of time and energy planning a training, right? And we invited people, and the group was, the power that was gathered together by the group in doing that, and to see the impact it had on the community was kind of career transforming. And it kind of, I think, transformed us all. I don't want to speak for everybody, but I think it had the impact of, like, our local knowledge is amazing, and it's valued, and other people are after it. And that moment in that, yeah, I played a lot of sports, and it was, and I've gotten the thrill of victory, the agony of defeat. That was like the thrill of victory that day that we did that thing. I remember after being pumped, and I was pumped for about a month after. I still am when I talk about it. But yeah, so the groups have been really powerful in bringing that kind of thing as valued people in the community that sometimes get lost in isolated practices.
One thing I'd always wanted when I was little, to be part of a think tank, and that experience of planning the conference was just phenomenal. I've never ever worked with a group of people in such a collaborative way, the way the ideas came and were, you know, transformed into something else, and things that, you know, actually worked out and just, you know, excelled, you know, people's learning. So it was absolutely a fantastic collaborative experience.
And one of the things that I find at my work is that people will come up to me and say, how come you're so smart about that? And they'll be talking about, you know, our practice in narrative or our reflecting teams or definitional ceremonies that I've been talking about just generally. And then I get stuck in an expert role because they see me as the go-to person, right? And so I find that a little bit hard, and I always sort of need to stop myself and remind myself that, wait a minute, I'm not the expert, I'm still a student in all of this and will be for the rest of my life. But it's amazing how much skill, I think that's what I wanted to come back to, how much skill we have in this room.
I really learn a lot from everyone else in this group. I know often we've done presentations to each other in the past, and there's been a lot of learning in that, and that inspires even more learning. Sometimes it inspires us to read an article or do a more practice exercise or talk about the concepts more. So I find that's very, very rich, because as Amy had said, there's so much learning in this group, and there's so much knowledge and skills that people have, and just being able to learn from each other, I think is really amazing. So
I found it really helpful when we've offered little contributions, you know, say one month we're on and we're going to offer something to the group. And I remember talking about the use of lists in my work with children. And, you know, and I didn't know if I'd have much to offer, you know, the group that time, but on reviewing the work, I realized just how many different kinds of lists I did use. And so it was a good experience to go sort of mining for that, out of, you know, because I don't always have the chance to reflect on, you know, what am I doing? What are the threads that tie my work together, say, with the children?
I have to make a confession about the things I've learned in this group, and I've ripped off so many questions off volume. So it's been an amazing thing, though, to be able to come and see people practice and see questions presented to clients and say, wow, why didn't I ever use that one? And then silently take it. I'm telling you now, it's not silent anymore. I've taken them back to my own practice, and I've used them shamelessly. And, it's been a wonderful thing to do that. It's like putting tools in my little kit bag that I bring along. So yeah, that's been a wonderful thing to get out of our meetings.
the scheduling far in advance, I think, is important. Because we're all really, really busy people, and because of the way seeing clients is. So if we get a schedule, you know, in September, and you have it either till January till the end of the year, so then there's a really strong, you can make that strong commitment.
When you don't know the benefits of the process as much, you sort of think, oh my God, this is a lot of time, and it's in the middle of the week, and that's the time I'm most busy, or this is in the middle of the day, or well, you know, this is a time where I could be seeing clients and so on. And I guess it takes a few sessions perhaps before you really can see the benefit and the richness and how much it sustains you over the week and keeps you connected with the ideas, but definitely it is a sacrifice. Some of us are sacrificing our own personal time, or you know, time with clients and so on. So it takes commitment, and in our experience, it's really, really worth it.
In terms of the commitment, what's really important is that it's a participatory commitment. And when you're talking about, for instance, participation, but yeah, it's not a group that you come to and just sit back.
Yeah.
Everybody participates to different degrees, maybe each meeting, but there's definitely that expectation that it's a working group.
I think there's a real challenge in keeping groups going and promoting groups. I think there's a big chunk to be done with agencies in a community and getting them on board, and really doing a lot of work and ongoing work on keeping them up to date with how beneficial the groups are.
You need the buy-in from the manager, whoever the hierarchy, you need the buy-in from them. And you need people to be given permission to take time off to do readings, to take time to themselves to do the meetings, because I think in situations where you're not given that and you're just sort of, I'm lucky I get that. Other people within the center haven't had that. It's starting to change. But those are two really important things. And then you also need people who have that desire, that curiosity for knowledge. And if they're not at that point, I'm not sure whether or not it's a good fit.
Okay, I was just thinking about how our groups emerged out of the internship program. So people were taking some training together over a few years of time, and you know, a smaller group did want to continue those trainings on, and I think other people who didn't participate in the internship had taken trainings on their own, and so in the same, you know, with same interests, skill development, that sort of thing. So it was that commitment to start with.
Yeah, the training that preceded the practice seems to be important for, well, I mean, we were fortunate that we had that as a grounding, but like what I'm saying is, also I know that there are new groups starting elsewhere where people may have not had that opportunity, but they're still doing some form of collaborative practice. So I'm just curious about that and how that, you know, whether that's a model then, another model.
There's notions that old style supervision is how supervision is done. To me, this style of supervision is cost efficient. It provides feedback to clients while it's supervising people. It provides ongoing training. It provides a whole lot of stuff that costs organizations money. There's notions it's an expensive way. I don't think it actually is. And I think you have to work at making people aware of what's happening, filling them in on it. And again, if I reflect back on what happened when we got this going initially, there was a lot of promotional work went on around the community, talking to them, selling them on the idea that, hey, try this out, it's really cool. And so I think that's a really vital thing to not only start up a group, but to keep them going. That you have to keep an eye to people who control money, because there is money involved, right? But I don't think it's any more expensive than any other form. In fact, I think it's cheaper.
A big piece of it is definitely the common approach that we share, that we all value the narrative approach and the ethics around it, but also having had the opportunity to build the trust between us, I think was really instrumental. And how we did that, I think, is a reflection. I think we just following the ethics of narrative therapy and of collaborative practice created the foundation for this trust.
Wherever you start, I think it's just start somewhere, start anywhere, and just keep moving. And would be my advice. Don't give up on it, because and sometimes I wonder if you have your foundational values, which maybe that's what. At least that's what I found from the training. I just got more and more grounded into, curiosity and not knowing and externalizing and other, like the person's not the problem is the problem. And those foundational values are something to come back to in whatever we're doing. And I think if that's there, then we can, in the collaborative spirit, then we can ask questions about that and ask questions about the development of the group around that. And I think we've held a space for multiple perspectives and views on how we want to learn. And we don't, there is diversity in that, So we have different preferences for different kinds of learnings. And I think that for me, this place has been open, the space has been open for honoring and going down those different pathways.
I think there's nothing like doing live work, tape work, sharing your work with other people. You get multiple perspective, and I find that there's a certain electricity to it that's invigorating about your work, and it kind of pushes you forward to find out new questions, find out things that aren't working, find out things that are. But it's all for a common goal, for doing better for the client. And I've never been able to capture anything as powerful as getting that multiple perspective and working alongside people and putting your work out there. I just think it's the best possible way you can learn, as opposed to the old way of having one client after another behind a closed door in your office that nobody ever sees. And I think that's a really outdated way of doing work. I think this makes a lot more sense to me, that both for clients and for workers. So.
And I guess I have an image in closing of our groups being an oasis, and that we're sort of like a herd of camels, and when we go to find that oasis, we sort of fill up, for several weeks and even a month.
Yeah.
And then
good analogy.
we're sort of able to avoid the traps and in the desert out there, and share our innovative approach with humility and kindness and not knowing and being collaborative with clients. So yeah.